Hi people, me again obviously, Moino Ravenberg. Yeah, as you can tell, this header is going to be on the pagan god or entity Apsu, spelled A-B-Z-U, or you can also spell it A-P-Z-U. Yeah, this video is going to be short, or at least I'm gonna try to keep it short. I know I've said that a lot of times, but yeah, I really mean it, despite regardless of how many times I've stated that. But I think so because there's not a lot to say, honestly. Now, long story short, before I continue, anything that I mention in the video and or anything of use, find it linked in the description of this video and or the end screen. More the former than the latter. Now, Apsu, long story short, hold on. Let me check the Wikipedia entry. Apsu is, oh my goodness. Um, I am so sorry. One moment. Oh yeah, a Mesopotamian entity. Um, is a Mesopotamian entity, also Sumerian and Akkadian. Let me see. Generally speaking, depicted as a deity in the Babylonian creation epic, also the myth of creation, the Enuma Elish. Long story short, within these cultures and or past civilizations, Apsu is the representation, loosely put, of the waters of the world, essentially. So all the oceans of the world, essentially all the water in the world fused with the underworld. Let me just put it that way. That's the best way I can put it. Let me just briefly read from the Wikipedia section. The Abzu or Apsu, also called Engur, and it just goes on. Akkadian Enguru. Ab is allegedly means more or less means water, and Zu means deep. Recorded in Greek as apason, is a name for fresh water from underground aquifers, which was given a religious fertilizing quality in Sumerian and Akkadian mythology. Lakes, springs, rivers, wells, and other sources of fresh water were thought to draw their water from the Absu. In Sumerian and Akkadian mythology, it is referred to as the primeval sea below the void space of the underworld, Kur, and the earth Ma above. So yeah, that speaks for itself. So you get the gist of it. Apsu is the personification, the spiritual or religious personification within a pagan context, specifically in relation to the aforementioned civilizations and or religions and or tribes. The personification of water, because again, similar to the sun, there is no life without water. If there is no water, if there was no water on earth, there would be no life. Everything pretty much would be a barren landscape. So, especially to past civilizations, water was very important, and even up to present day. Most cities, especially capitals, are built alongside water. They're built alongside a major body of water that, at the very least, connects to a main, even bigger body of water, essentially an ocean, because it is through water that one of the main, let's just say that all the waters in the world more or less serve as one of the main infrastructural forms of transit that are used in the world, specifically within commerce and industry. But yeah, anyways, therefore Apsu is a pagan god, quite similar to Tiamat, which I already covered like years ago. Tiamat was a representation or a personification of salt water specifically, and Apsu, if I'm not mistaken, what it says stands for fresh water. Yeah, fresh water. Um, and both of these are mentioned in the Babylonian myth of creation, the Enuma Elish. You know, most civilizations and cultures had like a creation myth, as in how the world came into being, how everything that you can see, hear, and feel, as well as what you cannot see, hear, and feel, and vice versa, came into being, came into existence. Essentially, it's like their version of what science calls the Big Bang. Not that I have no opinion on the Big Bang. Like I said, I'm not going to discuss that. Now, I'm here to discuss Apsu as a deity. Now, so yeah, that's pretty much it on Apsu. Like I said, check the link in the description below for all the things that I mentioned in this video. As a means, if you want to really delve into it, like you want to go dive face first into the whole gist of all of this. and or the end screen. I think I'm gonna add Tiamat's video also to the end screen if people want to watch Tiamat's video as well. I did that in 2018 if I'm not mistaken, 6 years ago, a long time ago. Yeah. Now, as an entity, as a pagan deity or as a pagan god, Apsu, let's start off with the appearance first. Apsu appears as pretty much as the description states, honestly. It's not so much a personificationary individual, not so much as an individual. It appears literally just as a body, essentially the underworld. What you imagine that, like, let's just say the soil beneath the earth in a cave. Think of like deep sea cave diving and spelunking, the stuff you see there, or any cave below the earth that obviously is mixed with water, like that. That's what Apsu looks like. Yeah, like literally like a minute ago I was like, okay, Apsu, I summon thee, show yourself to me in tangible form, so to speak. And I of course saw, like, again, a Persian looking individual, so someone typically reminiscent of the civilizations that he or it stems from, he, she or it stems from. I'm simply going to say he. And so a guy, but he was completely made out of water. Think of like if you saw me made out of water, like a water elemental version of me. And for the rest, I saw the aforementioned. Like I said, I literally just saw water, like large bodies of water, like lakes, oceans, rivers, and whatnot, mixed with soil in like an underground chasm-like fashion. And of course, there is no real feedback. Apsu did not speak or anything like that. But again, like I said, that's a given. It's the same. It was the same thing. I still remember, despite the fact that it was so long ago. It was the same thing with Tiamat. I mean, yeah, they can speak, but only when prompted to, and even if not prompted, they say very little. Honestly, like very one-wordish and whatnot. Not that I have an issue with that, I could care less, but I completely understand because, like I said, Apsu is the personification, similar to Tiamat. Apsu is the personification of the aforementioned factors and or elements. Apsu isn't so much a, how should I put it, a Apsu isn't so much the personification of Apsu isn't so much an individualistic entity similar to a living human being or similar. It's the it's just that a personification of the aforementioned. Yeah, and as for people wondering that, hey, as a magician, as a spirit worker, or an occultist, if I wanted to work with Apsu as an entity, what does Apsu offer? Apsu planetarily corresponds to the planet Mercury within a given context. But bear in mind that there is no real planetary alignment here, but the closest you'll come to is Mercury, essentially. Venus as a secondary option would also be doable, or would also be applicable, better said, but Apsu, Mercury in general. Um, Let me see. And the corresponding zodiac sign would be Virgo, specifically 10 degrees in Virgo. The 10 degrees stands for usefulness. It simply stands for the practical, which means that things relating unto the earth, honestly, is what Apsu can provide you as a specialty, to put it that way. Not that there is a real specialty present, but a metaphorical specialty. Anything from herbs to medicine, pharmaceuticals, and overall anything that has to do with the soil, honestly, but albeit in a discriminatory fashion. There is no other way to phrase it. Um, but like I already said, one thing you should know with Apsu is that Apsu, based on everything I've said up to this point, like Apsu isn't exactly one that you can like bond with at an individualistic level, because you're not dealing with an entity that has like an individualistic personality. It is, like, for the so many a time, the personification of an element, essentially the pagan personification of an element, in the pagan specifically in relation to the aforementioned civilizations, Babylonian, Akkadian, Sumerian, you name it. Yeah. And Let me see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, last but not least, before I go, something interesting to note. The name Apsu has been on my mind for a considerable while ago. The name Apsu has been on my mind for a considerable while, like years ago. I was familiar with that name Apsu. Why? Because there was a, back when I still listened to heavy metal, there was a black metal band that has occult themed, that had heavy occult themed, released heavy occult themed songs and or albums, and I loved that so much. I really, their musicianship was just superb, like 4 stars and up, and they have the same name, Apsu. That's where the name intrigued me. I was like, Apsu. A lot of these pagan gods, honestly, especially those from the Enuma Elish, the inspiration from me came to through heavy metal back in the day. Because despite the fact that this was like lifetimes ago, I don't listen to heavy metal anymore. No, I mean I can still appreciate its artistic beauty and stellar levels of musicianship, like metaphorically best music in the world, hardest to create technically, but it doesn't align with my state of mind, as I've already said in the past. But that's where I know these guys from. The same thing with Tiamat, for example, because I heard like heavy metal artists mention Tiamat in the thingy that um, in songs that I used to listen to. When I became an occultist, I said to myself, I started looking these names up, and I saw who it was and whatnot, and I was like, okay, let's see what you've got, summon, and it just goes on, and summon more or less, yeah, back then. Um, oh, in a matter of speaking only. And yeah, and that's the thing with Apsu. Again, for any person that still listens to heavy metal and is seriously interested, I'm also gonna link that in the description. Enjoy. One of their best albums had the same name, and I really love these guys, like really. So yeah, definitely check them out if you're a lover of heavy metal. If not, then obviously just ignore it. But I'm simply saying that before I go, this is where I got the inspiration from. In any case, that was it for Apsu. You heard it, appearance, specialties, etc. That's it. Bye bye.